Hello guys, Paul here. Welcome to another RD show where we're doing our final review of Formula One 2018, the new Codemasters Formula One game coming to PC, Xbox One and PlayStation 4 this August 24th. Right, where do I start? Well, I've got a replay in the background of my drive in the Red Bull 25% race distance at Spa-Francorchamps, and I've had a great time. I really love the game. I've had it for a few days now, and I've done quite a bit of lapping in the cars. I've tried the classics, the modern Formula cars, done a little bit of career mode, raced in the rain, raced in the dry, done a Grand Prix, and I've got to admit I am pleasantly surprised with Formula One 2018. For those of you that have not watched my previous videos or don't know of me from my time at Race Department, I'm very much what one would consider on the hardcore simulation racing game side of things, side of the fence. So for me, I was a bit doubtful as to whether F1 2018 would tick the boxes I needed to tick to be an entertaining experience, having sort of got a preconceived idea that the title would be more on the arcade side of things than simulation, and frankly I've come away really surprised and really impressed. The game, the time I've had with the game, it gives a very satisfying, enjoyable driving experience. The force feedback has come on a step since F1 2017. I still will maintain that it's not quite at the level of Assetto Corsa, R-Factor, Race Room, Automobilista, those kind of simulation games, but nevertheless, for what it is, simulating a Formula One car, a modern Formula One car, and the kind of game that we're talking about, for me, the force feedback is perfectly adequate for what it needs to do. It's an improvement over where it's been. There is still room to go, but by every stretch of imagination, it's not going to hinder or spoil the gameplay experience in any way, shape or form. I can feel the car underneath me a little bit more than I used to be able to do. I can feel the undulations and bumps of the road, and when the back end's stepping out and do a bit of corrective measure. So realistically speaking, yeah, I'm quite satisfied with force feedback. I'd definitely think it's a step forward. I still think it's a way to go to be anywhere near the top of the sim racing pile. Absolutely not. But yeah, for me, force feedback, a very solid 7, which is absolutely more than enough to enjoy a game of this kind. Graphically, that's obviously the very easy one to spot looking at the footage behind me at the moment and from the other videos. I think again that's a step up from previous versions of the Formula One franchise by Codemasters, and I think it stands up very nicely as a modern racing game. Of course, I don't think it's quite as polished as, say, Project Cars 2, but it's definitely a visually very nice game. The colour palette for me, they've done really well. It feels quite realistic in what we've got. We're not cartoony looking, it's not too shiny almost for its own good. So in that regard, I think Codemasters have done a really good job. They've got some nice detail. When the cars are going offline, it's kicking up a little bit of dust on the dusty circuit. We've got the sparks coming from the skid pan underneath the car, as you can see now on the screen behind. That's really nice. And so that as you're coming up to Eau Rouge, come out of La Source and up to Eau Rouge, the cars are bottoming out on the dip. All the sparks kicking up in your face really, again, adds to some nice immersion factor in the title. And realistically, that's what F1 2018 is all about. The idea is, it's not the most uber sim racing game, the most absolute realistic based on 100% real data. It's not that kind of game. It's one that wants to engross you in the world of Formula One, the on-track and the off-track product, really make you feel like you're in a Grand Prix race weekend, and I'll be absolutely honest, Codemasters have done a superb job in that regard. They've really brought alive the feeling of being on a race weekend in Formula One, and for that I've got to give them 10 out of 10. I think the graphics do the game more than justice. It's phenomenally good in the rain, so you're sort of coming down into turn 1, if you're mid-pack or towards the back end, the wall of spray in front of you genuinely makes you worried about sort of making contact with another car and finishing your race early, and that the visual representation of rain that I've seen is the best in any sim racing game I've seen, bar none. It looks visually brilliant. So yeah, graphic wise, I'd have to give F1 2018 8.5. I think it's a fair marker there. But while we're talking about rain a little bit, the physics side of things, I'm not impressed. Rain, for me, is quite poor, feels a little bit canned, feels like the car's not really reacting to the wetness of the road surface, but more pre-programmed into doing what it's been told it should do in those conditions, rather than genuinely interacting with the environment around you. Now, I mean, that may not be factually true. There may well be some clever coding done by Codemasters, and we may well have puddles represented in the game, correct puddle placements, aquaplaning, and real one-to-one sort of correlation between virtual tyres and virtual tarmac. But behind the wheel, does not feel like that at all. I think the driving experience in the wet in this game is probably the least impressive aspect of the title. That's not to say it's not fun. Don't get me wrong, that is not to say it's not fun. Racing in the wet in F1 2018 is still hanging it all on the line. Really good experience, the car's snapping and sliding, you've got to be 110% concentration, and it's still a lot of fun. But for me, that feels canned slightly. As I say, that feels like it's predetermining what it should do rather than actually responding to the track around it. So I suppose, again, for the kind of game that it is, the wide, broad appeal that it's pitched at, that's not necessarily too much of a problem. And probably from 99% of people that are going to pick up and play this on a steering wheel or a controller on console or PC won't nor particularly care if that's the case. But for me, from a sim racer point of view, that was a little bit disappointing, and it's kind of compensated by how visually excellent Rain looks, but nevertheless something that's a bit of a letdown, and I'd have to give that 4 from a physics point of view from wet weather immersion, but from graphically I'd have to give it a 10 because as I say already, you feel like you're in the eye of the storm, so to speak, and it really is graphically very, very good. Now, physics, while we're on to that sort of topic, hand up. I've never driven a Formula One car before. I am open to invitations, should any Formula One teams be watching this, to have a go in a Grand Prix car. Doesn't have to be a modern one. I'll drive anything. I don't care. So my ability to say to you, yes, this is 10% like real life or 100%, it's codswallop. I can't do it. Never done it before. But what I can do is use years of sim racing experience, having driven Formula One cars in more hardcore simulations such as Automobilista and Assetto Corsa and R-Factor as well, of course. And this does feel more simplified, shall we say, than some of the other titles. The cars are fairly easy to drive. Finding that last 10%, keeping that consistency, he says I just go wide on the gravel behind me, keeping that consistency is where the extra bit of skill comes in, but actually physically getting out and driving a car at 80% on a track is quite easy to do. You'll not be spinning off left, right and centre, but one could argue that's very much like real Formula One itself, and the real skill comes in that final percentage to get it the difference between ordinary to extraordinary driving. And that's what we've got in F1 2018. I'm driving with all the artificial driving aids turned off, so I think they call it Elite, I can't remember, driving model. And for me, it's not uber difficult, yet at the same time, it still keeps you on your toes enough to give a very solid, satisfying, positive driving experience, which really is what F1 2018 is all about. Being attractive to as wide an audience as possible, so this might be people who are fans of Grand Prix racing or fans of video games, and want to experience what Formula One racing is like. It appeals to them. They can put driving aids and assists on to suit their skill level, and then the more seasoned virtual drivers such as myself can take those driving aids off, ramp the AI difficulty up, and still have a very, very, very solid quality driving experience. Solid physics, good graphics, attention to detail and immersion, and the whole kind of focus on the real world of Formula One all add up to overall a very, 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 very solid, entertaining, enjoyable, rinse, repeat, have a go again package. And that really is what Formula One is aiming to be. It's aiming to make one of the most inaccessible sports in the world accessible to a wide variety of people. And for me, they win hands down with that one. They've done a really, really good job. So yeah, the physics side of things, it's not the most advanced, I must say. It doesn't feel like it is. But you are driving high speed, high downforce, single seater. So one could argue the amount of movement you have in the wheel is limited anyway. So if you were simulating, let's say, a 1960s Lotus Cortina touring car, then the engine's not up to snuff. But for what it is replicating here in F1 2018, they do a more than solid job. And for me, I've done 25 and 50%. I've not done 100% Grand Prix distance yet. That's enough to keep me engaged in the whole race experience. More than enough. So I think physics, I'll have to give them a 7. I think that's probably low if you were judging it for what kind of simulator do I want to do the best way of replicating the real world. But for the kind of game that this is, 7 is plenty enough and really does the trick quite nicely. Moving on to audio for a moment. Codemasters have done a really good job. Now, unless you've only discovered motorsport, engines, noise and hearing in the last few hours, no one can argue that Formula One sounds good anymore. It doesn't. It sounds like you've had a little problem and you need to change your pants. They are not impressive cars, Formula One, audio-wise. But Codemasters have done a really good job of representing that lacklustre turd in the game quite accurately, and I think they should be applauded for that. The sounds in F1 2018 are really, really good. The engine sounds, the way that the off-camera, now a sort of trackside camera on the replay that you see behind us, and the sort of padding of the noise it passes the car, the crowds in the background, you can hear the pit klaxon going when somebody's entering pit lane, the tannoys in the local language announcing to the crowds what's happening in the background of the race. All really, really good. All well balanced, all geared up to, at its very, very best, immerse you in the world of being in a Formula One Grand Prix. So in that regard, although they've got a pretty awful raw material in which to work on, Codemasters have done a great job, and I think the sounds are as good as you're ever going to get the 2018 spec hybrid power units to be. So in that one, I'm going to give them 10 out of 10, not because I like the noise it's kicking out, but because they do a good job of replicating the real world through the digital representation in game. So yeah, great job there, Codemasters. The spotter, Jeff, it is in the career, no relation to me, he's not annoying, which is rare for voiceover people, so he does quite a job of not being particularly annoying. David Croft, Anthony Davison doing the introduction comms and set pieces. Okay, it gets a bit repetitive and that, but the job they do is alright. Davison's a bit wooden in his presentation, you can tell he's reading from a script, but as far as these things go, as I nearly lose it there coming out of La Source, as far as these things go, a really, really solid job. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for audio. They do a great job with what is a poor initial thing to start with. So yeah, another thumbs up for Codemasters, and that is another pin in the chart for Immersion, which I think really is the key to F1 2018. Fellow sim racers will be used to having, in a vanilla copy of a sim game, a whole bunch of cars, a whole bunch of tracks, and then picking any combination thereof, going out and doing the race and the practice and the qualify, finishing, doing a donut, coming back to the menu, rinse and repeat, start again. Personally, I like that, that's what I want. I'm not that bothered about the cutscenes and the career mode and everything like that. I just want to drive and get the best driving experience, but I accept that some people do want more than just select, drive, come back to main menu, and this is very much the kind of game that would appeal to those kinds of people. So yeah, that's graphics, physics, audio. I want to touch on AI for a moment. Really excellent. I've run the majority of my races between 94 and 102% AI difficulty in a selection of cars, front, middle and back of the grid, and vast majority of the time I found the fighting that I've had with the AI to be very, very good. There's been very few occasions where I've been rear-ended ridiculously because the AI have got supersonic brakes that I don't have. I've raced side by side, wheel to wheel. They've cut back under me and overtaken me again when I've repassed me, should I say, when I've overtook them. We've fought closely, nose to tail. They brake where I expect them to brake. They accelerate where I expect them to accelerate. Occasionally I've seen them moving over and defending the line when I've been coming up. They breeze past when DRS is open rather than some games I've seen where you'll follow in a train even though it's clearly obvious to overtake. They have accidents. In the race that you're watching behind us now, Seb Vettel in the Ferrari retired for reasons unknown. I didn't see it myself, he was further up the road, but they have fights with each other, retirements, damage, that kind of thing. So the AI, I think they've done a really, really good job. I find a lot of my sim racing I do now, I do online, because for me, racing against a fellow person, a real life person, you can't beat that level of competitive spirit and fighting. So offline AI racing is not something I particularly want or have engaged in much in recent years, but this game really does make that an enjoyable experience. I have every intention, when these series of videos are finishing, to purchase this game and do an offline career mode, or probably not career because the cutscenes bug me, but an offline championship certainly. And I think I will very much enjoy that. So yeah, AI are excellent. Even this early access release that I've got, there may well be improvements further down the line when a wider range of people have the game. But yeah, AI, 8.5 out of 10 on that one, easily. I will give F1 2018, maybe even 9. The AI are perfect for what it needs to be and offer a very enjoyable racing experience. Now, I've also done some career mode, not much, there will be more, there will be videos following in the next few days and weeks about my career journey with Renault, and that is something I've got very little experience in the world of sim racing of, something I've done very little of, and F1 2018 really steps it up another level with this game. There are a lot of cutscenes where they introduce you to characters that will follow you through. There's Jeff, who I've mentioned earlier. He's our chief engineer at whichever team that you so desire racing with. You've got a Claire, reporter lady, who's massively patronising and occasionally pulls a little bit too seductive faces, or maybe I've spent too long in front of a computer and I'm reading things that aren't there. They're really good, the career mode. Claire will catch you after certain sessions and ask you questions. There'll be a timer on there, there'll be 4 possible choices that you can select, but you've got to answer really, really quickly, and the way you respond will directly affect the morale of your team. Now, morale's important in your team, as that'll see how well embedded in the outfit you are. It'll put you under risk of not being renewed or losing your contract, but also it'll affect a new aspect for F1, or expanded aspect for F1 2018, which is research and development. So each team has their own unique R&D tree, and you can allocate points based on what you've earned through achieving certain tasks during the course of your career season, and that will develop your car as it gets through both the current season that you're racing in and into future seasons as well. Those points will go towards bringing improvements to your car. If you interact with the media in such a way that it lowers morale, that will reduce the productivity and efficiency of the developments of your car, and then you'll fall further back down the pecking order. That's a really good feature, really engaging. I really like that with F1 2018, and I think that's something that will add a layer of longevity to the game and a layer of engagement to the game that perhaps won't exist from a simple pick-up play race that might have happened in previous generations of the F1 franchise. Of course, there are contract renewals, so you can be offered contracts by other teams, your contract will be renewed, you'll be set targets by senior management. All of that again adds over and above the aspect of the on-track driving product, and again immersion is the key word to put you in the life of a Formula One driver. Now, I've got to be careful when rating a judgment on this because they're not my bag, that sort of thing. But for what it does, for somebody who enjoys that kind of thing, it's really, really good and a huge step up over anything really in the racing game marketplace and previous Formula One titles. So I'll give that one a 9. There's room for improvement. Some of the scenes are a bit dubious looking, some of the way the people are modelled are damn right scary. But yeah, really good. Really good. The career mode, really good. I can't talk about the online features because, simply speaking, nature of the early access, there is no online available for me to play, so I can't judge how that has gone. You guys will be the judge of that one when you join our race department racing club events and various open lobbies and leagues and whatnot. You'll soon tell us how good that is. But overall, F1 2018 is a damn good game, and I'll have to rate it 8.5 out of 10. I think that is an incredible performance that Codemasters have pulled off. I am hugely impressed. F1 2018, really good game, will appeal to casual gamers, will appeal to the hardcore sim racers alike. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. I hope if you decide to take the plunge, you enjoy it too. I've been Paul, this has been RDTV. Give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Visit racedepartment.com. Sim racing is awesome, so is F1 2018. Thanks very much, till next time, goodbye.